All right, everyone get ready because today we are going deep into the medicine wheel. Well, not an actual wheel, of course, but the whole concept of it. We've got this really cool PDF called Medicine Wheel Download. It's like a guidebook to this whole way of thinking about ourselves and like the whole world. Are you ready for some like big aha moments?
For sure. And even before we get into all the specifics, I think it's worth mentioning that the medicine wheel, well, a lot of cultures use it. So what we're looking at today is one way of thinking about it, but there's so much more out there.
Oh, yeah, totally. And actually, our source emphasizes that too. So we're definitely all about respecting like all the different traditions out there. So, say someone's hearing about this like the very first time. How would you explain what the medicine wheel actually is?
Hmm. Okay, imagine like a map, right?
Yeah.
But instead of showing places, it maps out your whole journey through life. And each of the four directions, like east, south, west, and north, they're each connected to different stages that we go through, parts of ourselves that we develop, even stuff in the natural world.
Okay. Okay. So it's not just some symbol you hang on the wall. It's like something you actively use in life.
Exactly. And it's not about being 100% one direction all the time. It's more about understanding the energy of each of them. Yeah. And finding that balance.
Hmm.
Kind of I mean, you wouldn't just eat one type of food all day. You need that variety to thrive.
Right. Right. Okay. Yeah. I can already see how this applies. This is good. So let's start in the East. What stood out to you from like that part of the source material?
Well, East is all about new beginnings, like sunrise. You know that feeling like when you were a kid and everything was new. It's that kind of energy. And it's where I think our physical selves are really front and center. So
Hmm.
we're taking in new information, learning through our senses, figuring out what we like, what we connect with, pure potential waiting to sprout.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like when you start a new job,
Right.
you're totally like a sponge, just soaking it all in.
Totally. And the source material connects this stage to the grandfather teachings of love and honesty,
Yeah.
which, when you think about it, starting something new, you need a lot of self-love to get past those doubts we all have and honesty to admit what you don't know yet.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Especially the honesty part. It's so easy to pretend you know more than you do when you're just starting out.
Absolutely. And they actually give this example. Um, a student who's struggling in school feeling really inadequate. And it's super common in the East, right?
Yeah.
Because you're always comparing yourself to others, especially when you're a beginner.
Oh, 100%. That reminds me of when I first tried to learn how to code. I was so lost. I felt like everyone else was speaking a different language.
Right. And that's exactly the kind of situation where the whole medicine wheel, it can really help. It reminds you hey, these feelings are normal. It's all part of the process. It's springtime energy. Everything's warming up. The
Mhm.
potential's there, but you got to nurture those sprouts.
I love that analogy. Okay, so we've got this fresh start in the East. What kind of shifts as we move to the South?
Hmm. South. Think summertime. Peak experiences.
Hmm.
Tons of energy. This is where you really connect with your emotional self, forming those close bonds, figuring out friendships, maybe testing some boundaries a little too much sometimes.
Yeah, that sounds about right for summertime. Just like those carefree days with friends, no real responsibilities.
Totally. There's definitely that element. It's that time when you're finding your squad, your people.
Hmm.
But you're also learning to navigate all that social stuff, which gets kind of complicated. And that's where the grandfather teachings come in, but this time it's respect and bravery.
Oh, interesting. So it's not all just sunshine and rainbows down in the South.
Let's be real, sometimes those friendships get messy, right?
Yeah.
And the source mentions a situation where someone feels completely betrayed,
Hmm.
which, let's face it happens a lot when you're young. You're still figuring out where those lines are. It's almost like that summer heat just turns up the volume on your emotions, good and bad.
Okay, yeah. Now that you mention it, I'm remembering some pretty dramatic fallouts with friends back in high school. Definitely fits that South intensity.
Exactly. And that's why respect's so crucial in this stage.
Yeah.
It's about valuing other people's opinions, even when you don't agree with
Uh,
them. And bravery. That's all about standing up for yourself, saying what you need, even if it feels scary. It's a growth spurt.
yeah.
You're blooming outward, but it's not always smooth sailing.
Yeah. Man, those are some tough lessons. But I guess we all go through them, right? I'm curious though, because the source talks about the West as like this time for reflection. So how does that play out after all that excitement in the South?
It's Think about what happens after a long summer day, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The sun sets, things cool down, you start to process everything that happened.
Right.
That's the West. It's all about going inward. The West is like mental processing time.
Mhm.
It's where you analyze all your choices, the good ones, the bad ones, even the embarrassing ones. And then you face the consequences.
Oh, yeah.
It can feel kind of like cave time, when you need to retreat and just process everything you've been through.
Oh, I'm feeling that cave vibe. It's like when you make a mistake at work and you just need to like take a minute before figuring out what to do next.
Exactly. And the source connects this stage to the grandfather teachings, but this time it's humility and truth. It's about accepting things as they are and being honest with yourself about where you're at and taking responsibility. No more sugarcoating or blaming other people. It's straight up truth time.
That sounds intense, but I guess it makes sense. If you're really going to learn from your experiences, you can't be in denial, right?
Right. Like the South might be all about expressing yourself boldly, but the West is where you look back and realize, maybe I could have handled that differently. It's that autumn feeling, letting go of what's not working anymore, getting ready for a new cycle to begin.
Oh, that's such a good way to put it. I'm picturing those beautiful fall colors, leaves falling, making space for new things to grow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the source also acknowledges that this can be a really tough stage. It talks
Mhm.
about feeling hopeless or stuck, which makes sense. You can get caught in that loop of going over and over your mistakes.
Ugh, yeah, I've been there. Like when you keep replaying a conversation in your head, wishing you'd said something different, it's like a spiral.
And that's where the medicine wheel reminds you that this is just a stage. It's not forever.
Yeah.
Feels really intense, but the wisdom you get here,
Yeah.
that's what helps you move forward. It's about using that mental energy to course correct so you make better choices next time.
Okay, that's helpful. So we've gone from the excitement of the South to the deep introspection of the West. What's waiting for us up north?
If the West is sunset, the North is like the deep night sky.
Yeah.
This is where we connect with our spiritual selves, something bigger than ourselves.
Oh, intriguing. So it's
Yeah.
not just analyzing our experiences anymore. We're like connecting them to a larger meaning.
Exactly. It's that elder energy. And I don't mean in terms of age, but in terms of wisdom.
Uh,
It's like those people who've gone through all the ups and downs and they come out the other side with this deep understanding and peace. That's the North.
I love that. It's like they've seen it all and they can offer a totally different perspective because of it.
And the grandfather teaching here is simply wisdom itself. It's about seeing how everything is connected, those bigger patterns,
Yeah.
and making choices from this place of deep knowing.
That sounds incredibly grounding. Like after all that intensity of the other directions, you finally get to this place of peace and clarity.
Exactly. And that's where the winter symbolism comes in. You know how nature seems dormant during the winter?
Yeah.
But under the surface, there's a lot going on. Seeds are germinating, getting ready for new life. That's the same energy that's happening in the North, this quiet transformation.
Wow, that's beautiful. Like the stillness lets those really deep insights come through. The source actually has this example. Someone looking back on a mistake they made and they realized they wouldn't change a thing because it led them to exactly where they needed to be. Total North energy.
Absolutely. Makes you think, right? Is there something you look at differently now because of the wisdom you've gained over time?
Ooh, good question. It makes me realize that even those experiences that felt painful or just confusing at the time, they often turn into valuable lessons down the road. It's all part of a bigger picture.
And speaking of the bigger picture, the source emphasizes that the medicine wheel isn't just these 4 separate stages. It's about understanding that life is cyclical. It ebbs and flows, it has its ups and downs.
So we're not just going from east to north and then we're done.
Not at all. It's more like a spiral. You'll probably find yourself revisiting certain stages or certain parts of yourself at different points in your life. You might even experience like multiple directions in one day.
Okay, that makes more sense. It's not like a straight line. It's more like a dance. But how do we actually use this in our daily lives? I mean, it's one thing to understand the concept, but how do we make it practical?
That's where the idea of daily balance comes in. And the source actually gives some really helpful tips for this.
Okay, I'm all ears. Give me those practical nuggets.
For example, let's say you're mentally overwhelmed, like you've been spending way too much time in that West energy. The source suggests connecting with your emotional side. So maybe reach out to a friend or do something that just brings you joy. It's about recognizing when you're out of balance and using the medicine wheel as your guide to course correct.
That's so helpful. It's almost like a diagnostic tool. Feeling burned out, maybe you need a dose of that south energy to lighten things up.
Exactly. And it plays into that cyclical nature we were talking about. You're constantly moving through the different energies, trying to find that sweet spot where you feel grounded and aligned.
This is starting to feel like we've unlocked a secret code. I can look at my day and be like, okay, I need to tap into some north energy, find some stillness and perspective.
And the cool thing is, these cycles, they exist on so many levels. The source talks about cycles within cycles, which kind of blew my mind.
Oh, okay, break that down for me. What does that even mean?
Think about it like this. The medicine wheel, it reflects those natural rhythms of life. We have the seasons, we have day and night, even our breath. Like every inhale and exhale is a tiny cycle, right? And it's all happening within that bigger cycle of our lives.
Whoa, I never thought of that way. It's like those Russian nesting dolls. It's cycles within cycles within cycles.
Exactly. And what I found so fascinating is that the source connects this to the idea of planting seeds.
Yeah.
Every single action we take, even the small ones, they create a ripple effect that affects future cycles.
Oh, wow.
It's a powerful reminder that our choices matter. They're not just isolated events.
That makes me think about those butterfly effect stories. Like how one tiny action can set off a whole chain of events and lead to something huge.
Exactly. And that's where the medicine wheel can help us make more conscious choices. If we understand these cycles, we can choose to plant seeds that nourish ourselves and the people around us. We can choose to act from love, respect, wisdom.
That's such a beautiful thought. It's like we're not just living for ourselves, we're living for something bigger, something that goes way beyond our own individual experience.
And that brings us to another key aspect of the medicine wheel, which is relating to others. It's not just a tool for personal growth. It's a framework for understanding our place in this larger web of life.
Okay, I'm curious. How does the source apply the medicine wheel to, like, our relationships?
They use this great analogy of a body, how a body needs all its different parts to function.
Right.
Society needs people with all sorts of different skills, talent, and perspectives to thrive.
That's a great analogy. You wouldn't expect a heart to do the job of a lung. We need all those organs working together.
Exactly. And this counters that whole idea that we need to be good at everything or get along with everyone. They even talk about this circle check activity, which basically acknowledges that, we're going to vibe with some people more than others.
Oh, yeah, for sure. You can't force chemistry. Some people you just click with, and then others, not so much.
Right, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you can't respect and appreciate people who are different from you. It's just recognizing that those connections, they naturally ebb and flow, just like everything else in life.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. It takes the pressure off trying to be everyone's best friend. But if we're all these different parts of the body, how do we make sure everything's working together?
That's where those grandfather teachings come back in. Remember, respect and honesty from the East, bravery from the South, humility from the West, and of course, that overarching wisdom from the North. All of those qualities help us navigate those differences and find some common ground.
I'm seeing how this all ties together. It's so cool. It's not just about understanding ourselves. It's about understanding our place in the world and how we connect with other people. It's about realizing that we're all part of something way bigger than ourselves. And it goes beyond just right now, because the source brings up this idea of legacy. And that got me thinking.
Oh yeah, that's powerful. It's about how our actions today, they can impact things way beyond our own lifetimes, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? The source specifically mentions the legacy 7 generations concept, and I think that's pretty amazing.
7 generations. Whoa, that's a lot. That really puts things into perspective.
Yeah,
If we're always planting these seeds, what kind of garden are we leaving behind for those future generations to, inherit?
it really makes you think about the choices you're making, doesn't it? Are you, planting seeds of kindness, compassion, creativity, or is it more about negativity, fear, all that division? There's a lot of responsibility when you think about it that way.
It definitely makes you stop and think. So with all this wisdom about the medicine wheel, what's one thing you think people listening can start using in their lives, like today?
The thing that keeps coming back to me is that whole idea of using the medicine wheel to find balance every day. It's like a cheat code, I swear. Like feeling scattered and overwhelmed. Maybe you need some of that north energy. Find some stillness, connect with nature, write in a journal or something. Too much time in your head. Get moving. Try that east energy. Or connect with friends for some emotional support, that south vibe.
That's a great tip. It's actionable, It's not just some vague concept. It's something you can use every day to make choices that, lead you towards feeling better. And it ties back to those cycles within cycles, right? Even those little shifts can lead to big changes over time.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole deep dive so powerful.
Yeah.
It's not just about knowing stuff, it's about using that knowledge to actually create a better life for yourself, a life with more meaning. And speaking of powerful, the source has this really thought-provoking question at the end, and I think it's worth thinking about.
Okay, hit me with it. What's the question?
It asks, if your actions today could impact 7 generations from now, what seeds of change would you want to plant?
Whoa, that is a big one. It really makes you consider your legacy, right? Every thought, every word, every action. Like, if I want to leave a positive mark on the world, what am I doing right now to make that happen?
And it doesn't have to be these huge gestures. It's the everyday stuff, you know?
Yeah.
How are you showing up for the people in your life? What kind of energy are you bringing to your work? Are you using your talents, your gifts to actually make a difference? It all matters.
That's so true. It's like that saying, be the change you want to see. We all have that power to plant those seeds, to create a ripple effect that goes way beyond our own little world.
Absolutely. And that's what I find so inspiring about this whole deep dive. The medicine wheel isn't just an idea. It's like a call to action. It's this reminder that we can shape our own lives and we can contribute to a better future.
Couldn't have said it better myself. This has been such an amazing journey, really. A huge thanks to our expert for walking us through all this wisdom about the medicine wheel. And to all our listeners, we hope this deep dive has made you curious and given you the tools to start exploring yourself and your own journey. Remember, this is just the beginning. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep planting those seeds of positive change. Until next time, happy diving.